Know who there he is. All right, but Dante right here, guys. He is absolutely amazing. All right, he trained me for events team back in my first summer. All right, so me and Dante have been in connection for a long time now, guys. His true career, he's at $2 million in sales. All right, $2 million in sales. His best year with $300,000. His best month, guys, $80,000, and he has sold Cutco 1 week, $30,000. Okay, so if Dante can do it, you can too. All right, he's absolutely amazing. All right, the events coordinator here for the Lone Star division and the GCK National Events team consultant as well. All right, Dante is great, guys. What he says is the truth. All right, so I'm super excited for you to speak, Dante, but go ahead, take it away. Thank you so much for being with us today, this morning. Guys, Dante doesn't have to be here. All right, he has 9 demos today. 9 of them. He does not have to be here, but he wants to share his knowledge and his greatness for everybody. So please pay attention. All right, he has some, what is it called? Some news about SC1 as well. So be attentive, be present. You're here for a reason. You're a champion. So let's get started. I'm gonna pass it over to Dante.
Well, that was quite an intro, Jackie. That's like top 1, 2, 3 of all time. I've been here for 15 years. The hype is real. So I hope you guys are excited and ready to learn here for today, guys. I have a lot of information I'm going to be shelling out to y'all because one of the things that I want to make sure that you guys understand is how critically important the push weeks are during the summer. And for a lot of you guys, probably most of you guys, this is your first summer, and so you're in your first year rep status. Basically, what we call a rookie in our business. So there's a whole bunch for you guys to learn. I know a lot of people are excited, but there's so much cut code. In 15 years in the business, I'm still learning things pretty much every day and every year to make my business a little bit better. So I know a couple of you guys have some passes with Kathy with some situations, but I know I see about half you guys with y'all's beautiful faces. The other half of you guys need to make sure that you guys have your cameras on. I would feel weird asking you twice. So if you're going to be here, I need to make sure that you are here and you're not curled up in your cozy bed this morning. All right. So make sure that you're up and at 'em. Make sure your cameras are on. So that way I get to know you guys over time. But as we get into this, I'm going to go ahead and share, which I think I might need permission. So Jackie or Kathy, if you guys mind giving me
you've got all the permission.
Oh, I do? Okay. So let me see here. Where's my, I see it now. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to post the link for the agenda for today in the chat box. So that has just been posted with the link. Go ahead and click that so that way you can follow along here for today. Now, a couple things here I want to make sure you guys understand as we go through this. Today, I'm going to be going through a really intense dropping down workshop. So I run this workshop over the summers, like for many, many summers at this point, and it's probably one of the more sought after workshops that I typically do. And the reason why is because it's probably arguably one of the, if not the most important skill you need to master whenever you are a rep. You know, I've been selling Cutco, like I said, about 15 years. I've sold a couple $1 million worth of the knives and learned a lot along the way. And one thing that I've noticed consistently summer after summer is that when reps come in and start working with us, they see a lot of big numbers from a lot of longtime reps. Like, oh my gosh, Francisco sells so much, Cheyenne sells so much, Frank sells so much, all these people sell so much. They must sell ultimates every time, you know, they must only get the good customers. They must only sell the big orders all the time, always. Nothing could be not true, more not true than that. Double negative. You know what I'm trying to say. Point being is that what a lot of people don't realize is that all we do is we put ourselves in front of as many customers as possible by doing as many demos as possible. And when we're in front of a customer, we become masters at dropping down. So that way we have a high closing rate and our average order is really solid. So for example, you know, so far this push, I think I'm at about 6 grand, like just a hair under 6 grand so far, but I have about 11 orders so far. So my average order is about 570 or so right now. But that includes a lot of orders that people have bought a few pieces, a homemaker in there, a flatware chest in there, an upgrade in there, but it all balances out in the end. And so the reason why I'm saying this to you guys before we're diving into it is I really want you guys to understand something, that you don't have to sell ultimates every time to be great at this job. What you do need to be great at this job is phone calls, doing lots of appointments, and making sure that you are going through the steps consistently every single time. Now, what are the steps? It's about dropping down, which is what we're going to talk about today. So make sure you guys take down some notes. I want to make sure you guys ask questions at the end because I think we'll have a little bit of time for questions, which will be helpful as well. And then we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get the first bullet points here knocked out. three main things we're going to talk about this morning when it comes to dropping down. First part here is going to sound kind of contradictory, but just go with me on this. It's okay to sell pieces sometimes. I know whenever we're in our training, it's like homemaker, 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 get those homemakers, which by the way, ain't wrong. Your goal when you're a brand new rep is that your goal is to do the homemaker demo, sell as many sets as humanly possible. Now, for you guys that have been doing this, I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, I know you guys are all kind of fresh and new into this. As you guys know, do people buy homemakers every single time? No, because the thing is, if people bought homemakers every time, guess what's the only set we would sell? Homemaker sets. But the reason why we make sets that are bigger and the reason why we make sets that are smaller is because different sets are for different people. There's some people that have all the money in the world, but maybe there's not enough value in it, so they buy a smaller set. There's people that maybe don't have the best job in the world, but they cook all the time, so there's more value, so they spend more money. So the idea is I want to make sure you guys understand when you're going into this, lots and lots and lots of people can buy Cutco, but it's all about finding the right set for the right price for that person, which we'll talk about. The second thing here is that it's understanding that it's affordable to most customers. Now, the key word is most customers. Now, this might sound a little contradictory too, but I want to make sure you guys understand something. 90+% of people that are married, have a house and a full-time job, like a Mac customer, those people can spend $100 on something if they really wanted to. And the reason why I feel very confident with that is because, guys, I'm 34 years old. I'm married, got a house, got a dog. I'm a Mac customer. It's still kind of weird when I run these workshops and I tell people that, like, I am the type of person that is in that demographic. And I can tell you firsthand, I'm sure Kathy can agree with this as well. $100 on something nice for the house is like nothing in comparison to everything else. It is like pocket change. I know whenever we're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, $100 is totally different. Now, when I was 19 years old selling Cutco, I remember back in the day, like I was just trying to sell the knives and trying to make it. I was just trying to keep my fridge full and pay my tuition bills and things like that. Everyone goes through that stage of life. But the reality is this, no matter what situation I was in, I always had a pack of beer in my fridge. Sorry, Kathy, I'm saying that. We always had a pack of beer in my fridge. I always had Mountain Dew, and I always spent anywhere between like 50 to $100 like on my groceries. And then I would go eat out with friends throughout the month periodically. So the reason why I'm saying that to you guys is I want to make sure you guys understand something. Take the value out of the equation, like take Cutco out all in general. If someone really, 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 really wants something and they really, really, really see the value and the need and the want in it, it's not that difficult for someone to want to spend $100 on something that's really nice. And so I want to make sure that we keep that perspective when we go through that part about how to make it affordable for customers. It's all about value. Third thing we're going to talk about here today is how to minimize promise orders. Guys, this is probably one of the best things you're going to get here from today is this third bullet point. By a show of hands here, who here has ever gotten a promise order before? If you haven't gotten one yet, and if you guys maybe not clear on what that may be, it's I really like it. I'm totally going to get it, Riley, but I'm going to get it next week. I really like it, Millie, but I'm going to get it next month. All those kinds of things. And whenever you get those types of promise orders, can you guys probably guesstimate like how often those typically go through? Less than half, not very often. And so the reality is that it's the best intentions in the moment, but the reality is life settles in and then people get distracted and other things come into play. So if you become really good at dropping down, you're going to minimize the amount of promise orders. Now, by the way, full disclosure, I still get those every once in a while, but it's so minimized, like it's so few and far between and so rare nowadays because I just had a customer yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, I should say, that said, I really like it. I'm like, she had a homemaker set. She liked the flatware. And I remember going through it with her. I like it, but we just had this situation come up with our house. We're having to spend this much money. It was kind of unexpected. And it's nice, but I know you guys will have it later. So I'll just get it next time, or I'll just get it down the road or whatever. And that was kind of like a hurdle for her to overcome. So I went through my process. I dropped down with her a little bit, made a little bit of a deal for her. And then, which you guys will hear me say a lot of things today that you guys can be able to use. But I remember by this point of the story is that probably about 10, 15 minutes later, she ended up buying the flatware anyways. And so the whole thing is that when you're minimizing promise orders, you just have to go through some key steps. And as long as you do steps the right way and you ask some really good questions, you can change someone's perspective. And they're like, you know what? That makes sense. I might as well just get it now versus wait and pay more later, which we'll go into that here today too. So those are the three main bullet points we're going to dive into. So I want to make sure you guys have that. So let's go ahead and unpack the first one here. The first one here is understanding that sometimes it's okay to sell pieces. And you'll notice I put parentheses there and small sets. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that you don't want to be the rep that goes big or goes home. You don't want to be that person. I know it sounds cool, but it's not the person that you want to be. What I mean by guys, I used to run an office like many years ago. Like I ran a couple of branches. I was a pilot manager, kind of like what Claudia is and stuff like that for a few years. And I just want to make sure that you guys know that I would sometimes have reps that would come through and they would sell a homemaker and then have like two no sales, sell another homemaker and then sell like two pieces, another homemaker and a bunch of run of no sales and one piece orders. And basically, what that tells me is that, okay, at the end of the week, if someone has sold like a homemaker and like three-piece orders and had a ton of no sales, that tells me that they're struggling with dropping down, and it could be for different reasons. So, what I want to do is kind of unpack this so that way you guys understand some of the common errors that a lot of first year reps make. So, hopefully, that cuts down the learning curve. No pun intended, but they cut down that learning curve for you guys when you guys are brand new. So, let's go ahead and get the first point here. Don't hate on the customer, be happy for them. Now, what does that mean exactly? It means that one of the most common mistakes I see first years make is they wear their emotions on their sleeve. They'll go into a demo, and I want you to think about it this way, like put yourself in your customer's shoes. You're sitting down at the table, you have this young, hungry college kid who's like super motivated, working hard, trying to make all the sales, win scholarships, all this kind of good stuff, right? Like all the good stuff that Cutco promotes every single year. The main thing is though, imagine that college kid like being super excited, being super bubbly, doing a great demo. You're excited about Cutco. You know there's probably something that you want. You know it's a little bit expensive, but you know it's worth it. And then the very first option they show you is a homemaker plus eight. And let's say for some reason you can't get it. Maybe it's more money than you feel comfortable spending right now because there's something going on. Or maybe they didn't do the best job with names and uses, so you don't feel like you're going to use all the knives in the set, whatever reason it may be. But the point is, you tell the college kid no. And imagine that college kid going from super excited and motivated to like super bummed out and sad. Totally kill the vibes. Now, you as a customer, does it exactly make you more motivated to want to buy Cutco? No, of course not.
No.
So why would we want to do that? So the idea is really simple, is that I want to make sure that we understand something that when a customer tells us no, we need to make sure that we can't wear those emotions on our sleeves. I don't know if you guys ever heard this saying before. This is something I say on the events team with like our meetings and stuff when I talk about this, is you can't let your face speak before your mouth does. And what I mean by that is that sometimes whenever you get told no about something, the face sometimes changes and it tells the person in front of you everything that you're feeling. And that's not where you want to be. So when a customer tells me no, my instinctive response, it's like a default setting at this point is, hey, no problem, Mrs. Jones. That's totally cool. Doesn't matter if they just broke my heart, like they talked all this game about buying something, whatever, it happens. And then for some reason doesn't work out. Like, oh, I can't do it, Dante. It's so great. You did such a good, who's heard that before? Oh, you did such a good job, but I can't get it because of whatever reason. Oh, stabs you in the feels. But the reality is that whenever that happens to you, you have to make sure to have the discipline to say, hey, no problem, Mrs. Jones. That's totally cool. I get that. We'll go into that a little bit later. But you got to be happy for them because always remember this. When someone says no to buying a homemaker set or buying anything, does that mean that they don't like Cutco? Does that mean that they don't like you? I certainly hope not. I'm sure that's not the case. It just means that the first option you show them isn't the best option for whatever reason, which we'll figure that out. So always remember that in the back of your head. Just because say no to a homemaker or a galley or whatever doesn't mean they don't like Cutco. Okay, second thing here. I did some math for you guys. So I want you guys to run a scenario in your head real quick. Let's just assume like the rest of this week. I know SC1 is like next Tuesday. And so the idea is that I want to make sure you guys know that when you guys want to have a good push and you're like, man, I want to sell my first $10,000 for a push week. Like in first year, I would love to sell 10 grand, or maybe you want to do more, like 15 or 20 or 30 or whatever it may be. I mean, heck, like some of you guys might be like, oh, I'm just like got over my first promotion. I'm in my fast starter. I just finished my fast starter. I'm just trying to figure it out. Wherever you're at is where you're at. But here's the point. Regardless of where you stand in the business, you realize if you sold no big orders this week, like no homemakers, no signatures, nothing crazy, heck, not even any galley sets. If you just had a $300 average order, which is low, like it's below the average line, if you had a $300 average order this whole, like over the next couple of days, and you had 5 orders, you would sell 1,500 bucks. And I don't know about you guys, but when I was a first year rep back, it's gonna be weird, in 2009, when I was a first year rep going through my first push week and doing the same thing you guys are doing right now, I remember thinking, man, if I could sell $1,500 a week every single week, I'd be a pretty happy camper. I'd be pretty good income. I would be knocking out promotions every couple weeks or so, and I would feel my confidence would build over time. So, and by the way, 5 orders in a week is really not a lot. it's probably what, maybe 8 demos. You could probably knock that out in one day, maybe two. And so the idea is really simple is I want to make sure you guys remember that small orders add up too. You'll get those orders where you sell 1 and 2 knives. I had a couple of those the other day. It happens to all of us. But the idea is that at the end of the demo, can you confidently say you did everything in your power? You showed them every option. And then at the end of the day, they're going to buy what they want to buy. But your job is to make sure to show them what's possible. And that's something I tell my customers all the time is like, hey, at the end of the day, Mrs. Jones, my job is just to show you what your options are. It's just your job to tell me what works for you. And I feel like customers really respect that and like that a lot. So they don't know what they can buy. They don't know. That's why they ask questions like, can I buy just pieces? Can I get this set without this one? That's why they ask questions because they don't know what they can buy. So, third part here on this is always remember it's one of two things. If someone says yes to buying something, great, high five and a fist bump. That's awesome. Move on, get your Rex, all that stuff. If they say no for some reason, you have to remember it always comes down to one of two things. It's either too many knives or it's too much money. Now, I want to make sure you guys understand there's perspective to this. When customers say it's too many knives, you're going to get that every once in a while. But the reality is this. I want you guys to always remember this, and I'm just going to ask permission from you guys because I know I don't know most of you guys quite yet, and I'll meet you at SC1. And for you guys that qualify for events, I'll meet you guys more in detail there. But if you get the same objection over and over again, do you guys mind if I just like tell it to you guys straight? Like, don't sugarcoat anything. Can I just be very direct with you guys? Is that all right? Thumbs up if that's all right. Beautiful. I love people like that. So here's the thing. If you get the same objection over and over and over and over again, is it the customer's fault or is it probably the rep's fault? It's probably the
Probably the
rep's
rep's
fault.
fault.
Exactly. Jackie, it's like you worked on her team before or something crazy. So the idea is that I want to make sure you guys understand that if you keep getting the same objection, whether it's on the phone, on a demo, on Rex, doesn't matter. If you keep getting the same thing, the common denominator is one thing. It's the rep. So you just have to look inwards and be like, huh, what am I doing or not doing that's causing this thing to keep coming up? And how do I fix that? The beautiful thing about our business is you guys are a part of a great division. You have great managers. So you can go to those people and you can bring them your objections and they can help you with that. So I want to make sure you guys understand two reasons why they say no. Either too many knives, which means they didn't see enough value in the pieces that come in that set, or it's too much money, which means that maybe it's more than they feel comfortable spending for XYZ reason. It could be something simple as like, hey, I got some unexpected things that come up, so I can't quite budget that much. It could possibly be a value thing, like maybe we didn't do a good job building enough value in it where the price makes sense. Which, by the way, guys, like probably 80% of the time when someone says no, it's not necessarily what comes in the set. It's more of like, does the money make sense for them? And I can tell you very confidently with this, guys, a lot of people can buy galleys, a lot of people can buy homemakers, a lot of people can buy 5-piece specials if they really wanted to. Now, where does it come into play though? Because Cutco sells itself like it's best of its kind. It's top of the industry. It's like that for a reason. It has the best guarantee. It's American made. Checks all these boxes. A lot of companies don't have that like benefit. A lot of salespeople for a lot of companies don't have the best of their industry, and they kind of have to overcome that a little bit. We don't really have that problem, which is great. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that if someone says no, always remember it's one of those two things. Now, I'm going to go ahead and nip something in the bud right now because usually at the end of this workshop, I'll get a question sometimes that says, well, Dante, you said it's knives or money, but what if they say they need to talk to their spouse? So, by a show of hands here, who here has gotten a spouse objection? I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to my husband. I need to talk to whoever. If you haven't gotten it yet, you'll probably get that at some point. It's like Thanos. It's inevitable. A little Marvel for you guys, but it's one of those things that it's just going to happen eventually. And so the idea is this: is I want to make sure you guys kind of peel back a layer here, as we like to say, which means that if I'm sitting with a wife and she wants to buy a Cutco, she's like, I really like it. I totally would use it, but I really got to talk to my husband. So you have to remember what she's really saying. It doesn't mean that she doesn't like Cutco. Again, it doesn't mean she doesn't like you or doesn't like whatever, any of that stuff. It just maybe what she's truly saying is it's maybe a little bit more than she feels comfortable spending right now without her husband right there next to her. Does that make sense? And so I want you guys to remember whatever a customer tells you is always going to fall into two categories. For her, it's a money objection. So I'm going to put that in the back of my mind. So every time I drop down, I just have to make sure the money makes sense. Guys, I've had thousands of customers who have said, I like it and I want it, but I got to talk to my spouse. And I know it's a money objection almost every time. So by the time that I drop down a few times with them, I've had people before that said that on a ultimate set. And then they bought a homemaker set like that. They're like, oh yeah, I could definitely do that. Guys, like I don't know how much money my wife spends on like shoes and a purse every once in a while and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just our dynamic. That's how we do things. Every couple's a little bit different. So I just want to make sure you guys understand though that whatever objection they give you, it's always going to fall into one of those two buckets. So remember that as you drop down. Okay, let's go ahead and dive deep on the second main point here. Focus on the payments, which means that it's affordable. Guys, you guys have to make sure that you understand something is that Cutco is worth its weight in gold. And it's one of those things where I know I'm probably like a minority in this in our business, but um, like I believe Cutco is a very strong want product, not necessarily a need product. It makes total sense for people to buy Cutco like out of a need. It like if you have one trimmer, you have it forever. It's gonna be awesome. You spend $100 on a knife that'll last you a lifetime. Makes way too much sense not to have that. Okay, but the idea is really simple. Is that a lot of people want to buy Cutco, and that's why we do great demos because they like you, they like Cutco, they want to buy it. So, but here's the thing though, when it gets down to brass tacks, you need to make sure that you know a couple of things on the back of your hand. Okay. Number one here is knowing your payment plan. Guys, there's so much stuff that I sell on the 5Pay because of just how I literally make sure everyone knows about it the right way. So I kind of have a group question here. So feel free to unmute yourself if you know the answer to this. But what's the minimum dollar amount? And Jackie, you can't answer this. What's the minimum dollar amount that someone has to spend in order to do 5 monthly payments?
400.
Perfect. Okay. And that's as fast as someone should answer. If you don't know that, like within like a few seconds, that's a red flag. You got to know that stuff on the back of your hand. That's because, guys, we don't care if they buy $400 of paring knives. It doesn't matter if it's a set or if it's a bunch of pieces. It doesn't matter. It's all about the amount of money spent. Guys, I had a lady, I want to say it was 3 days ago, where she really just wanted to get like, I think it was a pair of shears. And she's like, I've always been wanting the shears. And she bought them, got her credit card, asked her some questions. And then turns out she had steak knives on her wish list too. And I said, well, hey, by the way, just so you know, if you, I know you're buying the shears now, but if you wanted to add the steak knives, it would only be this much. But what's cool is since it's over $400, Cutco allows you to split over 5 payments. We give you everything up front. You just pay this much today and then the same amount for a handful more months. And there's no interest attached to it and no credit check either. So if you're going to get it eventually, might as well just bundle it together and just split up the cost. And she's like, I can do that. And I'm like, yes. By the way, I've sold to this lady like years and years and years, and she always does the 5 pay. She always forgets about it. And so I remind her about that, and she's like, okay, go ahead and add the steak knives to it. And just like that, boom, super easy to raise that order. Now, I know that's not exactly tied to dropping down, but it is tied to knowing your payment plans. Because if I didn't remember that, I wouldn't have mentioned it, which means I would have missed out on like 300 something CPO from a set of steak knives. It's the little things. So another question for you guys. What's the minimum amount someone has to spend in order to do 3 monthly payments?
250.
Close, but no cigar on that one. Got the first one right. All right, do we have another guesser? Going once, going twice. Oh, y'all are breaking my hearts right now. $200.
It's 300. Oh,
200. $200, guys. So if you don't know that either, again, red flags, red flags. You need to make sure that you guys have that in the back of your hand. That means that someone could buy 2 Cutco knives, do 3 monthly payments for about $70 a month. I don't know about you guys, but that's like a lot less than most people's cell phone bills nowadays. And that cell phone bill is going to last forever. They're going to trade in that phone in a couple of years, get the new one like they always do. And let's be real, it's going to last as long as a Cutco knife. And so I want to make sure you guys understand like the power of the 3 pay, power of the 5 pay. So that way, if people are budgeting $80 to $100 a month on something, you can get some quality orders pretty easily. Most people are used to doing 5 pays. People do it on their subscriptions, people do it on their gym memberships, on all kinds of stuff, right? So I just want to make sure you guys remember, don't forget the 5 pay. Now I have a line in here that I learned when I was a baby rep. And I learned this from an assistant manager from my first office when I was field training with them. Because, you know, full disclaimer, I was not very good at this job at the beginning. Like I was a late bloomer to say the least. But the point being is I always remember this day going field training with this guy because I was struggling. I was struggling hard. And I remember going with this guy and I watched him do a demo. And this lady told him like 50 million times, like, oh, I love it, but you know, not today, not today. Can I buy just a piece, whatever? And it's kind of a blur at this point because it's been a while. But I remember by the time we left, he got a good sale. And after we started talking in the car ride back to the office, He said, Dante, it's super simple. Dropping down is one of the main differences between being a good rep and being a great rep. And that always kind of stuck with me. And I said, okay, I see what he means by that, because people will say no to something all the time. But as you drop down the right way and you ask the right questions and you have rapport built with them, people are going to be way more open to getting something smaller. Again, the amount of instances where I've had customers say no 3, 4, 5 different times. Again, not know that they didn't want to buy Cutco, just no to that option. And by the time we got down to something they were comfortable with, they spent $600, $400, $200, $100 sometimes. And a sale is a sale, and you got to be grateful for every single one of them. Just because it's not a homemaker set doesn't mean you shouldn't be grateful for it. Okay, so let's get into the third bullet point here. Now, this is the most important part. So I want to make sure that you guys have your ears perked and you guys are fully attentive for this thing, because you're going to need to take some notes for sure. So a couple things here on dropping down, which is minimizing your promise orders. You have to make sure to do a couple of key things. So let's hit the first part. Enthusiasm and rapport is key. Now, what do I mean by that? Enthusiasm kind of circle backs to square one at the beginning of this message, is you can't wear your emotions on your sleeve. You have to make sure to stay positive, stay confident, all that kind of good stuff. Now, what I mean by that, guys, is again, you can't sit there and be sad and bummed out if someone says no to your homemaker set. Again, just because they say no to that doesn't mean they don't want to buy Cutco. It just means the homemaker isn't going to work for them today for whatever reason. But you have to make sure to maintain that positivity and smile and all that kind of good stuff. Trust the process. Rapport is key. So here's what I mean by that. Now, when you're brand new, when you guys are taught about building rapport, your manual tells you, I believe it says 5 to 10 minutes or so at the beginning of your demo. And that's accurate. Now, what I would tell you guys, though, is that you want to go much further than that. So there's a game I used to teach our reps like a long time ago called the 20 questions game. And this is something that takes practice, because I know, again, you guys are newer. And but if you can practice this with another rep from your office, assistant manager, whoever it may be. But the point is that the 20 questions game is simple. Your goal is to ask them 20 questions about themselves before you show them Cutco. Now, the question becomes, why is that important? Well, it's important because it builds rapport and trust. Because there's 3 parts to building rapport, guys. A lot of people make the mistake of just thinking, I just build rapport at the beginning and I just kind of like create conversation and then we get to business. The reality is that that's not wrong, but you have to build it during the demo and at the end of the demo, especially at the end when it comes to buying time. So here's what this means. At the beginning of your demo, what building rapport is at the beginning, is just getting to know them. It's like, hey, just curious, where are you guys from? Where do you guys go to school? How about your kids? Talk about all that kind of small stock stuff that they teach you in training. All that's important. Guys, last Christmas, I talked to a guy about brisket for like 30 minutes. And like he wasn't gonna get anything. He was gonna think about it and this whole thing. And then somehow we stumbled on brisket. And he just like lit up like a Christmas tree and talked to me about brisket. He had a whole website and like that dude is into it. And so I just talked to him about that for a while, and without mentioning any Cutco, and there was so much like likability and trust built between us over a piece of meat that he ended up actually being feeling more comfortable with me, and he bought like $4,000 worth of stuff. Now it didn't start there, but that's where it ended, and it doesn't happen like that every time, but it does usually happen in your favor when you build good rapport. So here's the point I want to make. At the beginning, rapport is all about small talk, building likability, asking them questions about themselves. During the demo, it's all about cheesy jokes and dad jokes. It's about keeping them involved. Now, I know when I say this, I see a lot of like smiles and grins and chuckles and stuff, but here's the point. I'm sure you guys have probably been taught the B sharp joke at this point on the spatula spreader. Does that ring a bell for anybody? Oh my God. Okie dokie. All right. I know Kathy knows this one.
Because I haven't been running training, I'm ready to have a baby. They're missing all the good stuff.
Perfect. So this is great because now I get to actually teach. I get to be the guy that teaches you this. This is awesome. So I'm going to give you guys one dad joke. Okay. So if you ever feel like in a demo where you feel like you're just talking at them the whole time and you're not doing a great job of keeping them involved, you need to plug in dad jokes as much as possible. All right. Yes, they're bad. Yes, they're cheesy. Yes, people roll their eyes. But at the end of the day, we all love them. So here's the point I'm trying to make. When I'm doing my names and uses, and I talk about the spatula spreader. I do the same thing you guys do in your manual. I talk about all the features and benefits of why the spatula spreader is great. But then at the end of every time, before I go to the petite carver, I mention this. I go, hey, by the way, Miss Jones, I'm just curious. Have you ever been in band or choir or anything along those lines in the past? It doesn't matter if they say yes or no. I was like, okay, cool. Well, the reason why I ask is because most people know this, but our spatula spreader is actually our best musical instrument we make. And then they're going to be really confused and kind of give you the side eye and like the weird eyebrow look, be really perplexed, but they're going to be intrigued. Like, what do you mean by that? I was like, well, let me just, it's better if I just show you. So I take out the spatula spreader and on the table and I go, hey, so this actually plays music. So what I want you to do is try and guess the note that it can play. Take the spatula on the table and go ding, ding, ding. And if you haven't done this before, it literally makes a very high pitched, like dinging noise. And then I'm just going to look at them and say, hey, what note is that? They're going to say, like, I don't know, like A flat. They're going to be wrong. Right. Doesn't matter what they say. Like, no, Mrs. Jones, it's a B sharp because your Cutco knives will always be sharp. And you just stare. Exactly the reactions that you guys are giving right now. It's exactly the reactions you want from customers. It's silly, it's cheesy, but it's fun, and that's what matters. And so I want to make sure you guys understand that as you plug those throughout your demo, it makes the demo fun. It makes it interactive. It doesn't become a presentation, it becomes a conversation. You're still saying all the same words from your manual. You're reading it word. By the way, if you're not reading your manual word for word, I'm gonna throw you off the building because you're not doing all the best things that all the best reps do. So read your manual word for
Don't get
word.
thrown off a building.
Yeah, we don't recommend that. And so make sure that you follow your manual and then plug in that dad joke on the spatula spreader. Now I don't have time to give you guys all the dad jokes, but go to your manager and I'm sure they have a couple of good ones that they can plug in here for you too. So I want to make sure you guys know that's the middle of the demo. The end of the demo is where this comes into play, which are the 4 steps when it comes to dropping down. Okay. When you're dropping down, the way that you build rapport and build trust is by asking good questions and being patient. Ask good questions and be patient. So let's go ahead and go through this. I'll kind of explain it and then I'll just kind of do it in one cycle so that way you guys can just see me do it live. Okay. And so let's go to step 1 here. Customer tells you no to buying a homemaker set. Step number 1 is always going to be, hey, no problem, Mrs. Jones. That's totally cool. Big smile. Hey, no problem, Mrs. Jones. That's totally cool. I get it. You want that customer to feel like, wow, I just told the person no to buying something. It's like it didn't even bother them. And at the end of the day, inside, dying. Oh, dang it, missed out on the homemaker. But that's not how you can show it. You have to be totally cool as a cucumber here. All right. No problem, Miss Jones. Totally cool. I get it. Not a big deal. That's going to build so much trust with your person. Step number 2, we switch gears into saying, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what is about the homemaker that you might be unsure of? And I think they say that in your manual already. Is that right? By the way, I'm glad they have that in the manual. And if you guys haven't been shared with this already or told this already, do you guys know how they make your training manual? They interview guys like me. They interview people that have sold like Cutco for a decade plus, who have sold more Cutco than I have. And they ask them, like, what's the latest and greatest things that reps do, like CSPs, Cutco sales professionals do? And then they take the best stuff and then they put it into your manuals. That way you guys sound like us. So you guys have all the same words and the verbiage and stuff like that. And as long as you do that word for word and become confident with it, you have all the best tools. All you got to do is lots of demos and it'll work out. Now, you may not be as experienced on handling certain things, and that's fine. That'll come with time. But this is the point I'm trying to make. When you say things like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, what is about the homemaker you're unsure of? That is what we say. And all they're going to say is they're going to give you a reason. It's going to be money or knives. Like, well, I really like it. And you did such a great job, Nettie, and all this kind of good stuff. But, you know, we have 2 kids that are going off to college this year and it's really expensive. And I just don't know if we can budget quite that much for knives here today. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Something along those lines, right? Again, doesn't mean she doesn't like Cutco. It just means the homemaker isn't the set for her. And we'll figure that out in a minute. So now that we know that it's a money objection, we're going to go to step number 3, where it says clarify and repeat back to the customer. Now, what does that mean exactly? Here's how it sounds. Gotcha. So no problem at all. So Lucas, just to clarify and make sure I'm hearing you right, you're saying that you like the homemaker set and would totally use it. It's just maybe a little bit more than you feel comfortable with right now because you have 2 kids going to college and college ain't cheap. Am I hearing that right? And then they're going to go, yes. They're going to give you a nod, a confirmation of some sort. And then why is that important to say? Because you're showing the customer that you're listening to them. Guys, have you ever been in a situation before where you're talking and talking to someone and you can just tell they're not listening? Isn't that frustrating as heck? The idea is that when a customer is thinking about buying something, if they realize you're not listening to them, then bad things are going to happen to you. And what I mean is the bad thing is like it's going to be a lot harder to make a good sale at the end. So the reason why I say you have to clarify what they say and repeat it back to them is that you're confirming with the customer that you're listening to them and you're on the same page. That builds trust. That builds rapport. Rapport is trust. That's how you do it. And then we get to our last step, which is step 4, which is you build up the next option and then you drop down to it. So here's how this goes. Let's say we're still on the homemaker set. So just to clarify, you're saying that, so just to clarify, Jackie, you're saying that you really like the homemaker set, you would totally use it. It's just maybe a little bit more you feel comfortable spending right now because of the new roof on the house was unexpected. You know, roofs aren't cheap. Am I hearing that right? She's going to say yes. I was like, okay, cool. Step number 4. Well, by the way, just so you know, we actually have a set that's a little smaller than this one. Now, it is a few less knives, but it's for a lot less money. And I think it might be a better option for you anyways. Do you mind if I show it to you real quick just for fun? Now put yourself in your customer's shoes. Is that pretty low-key way of showing the next set? 100%. Because let's go ahead and break down this verbiage. Now, for you guys that have the handout pulled up right now, you'll see that I have this typed in at the bottom for you. So make sure to steal that and use that every time you drop down. Now I'm going to go ahead and break down why I say what I say though. Okay, so there's a science behind this. So the first part here is, by the way, just so you know. Now, the reason why I plug that in there is that it's a very low-key, casual way to transition from one thing to the next. Hey, by the way, just so you know, super low-key. Next part, we have a set that's a little smaller than this one. It's a few less knives for a lot less money. Now, why do I promote it? They don't know what a galley set is. They don't know what comes in a galley. They don't know how much it costs or anything, but it doesn't matter. The idea is I want to build up the excitement for it. Like I want to promote the galley set as a great option before they know what it is. That way, by the time that I show it to them in a few seconds, they're way more open, like they want to see it. When people want to see something, and if it's a better fit, there's a better chance they're going to buy it. So we have a set smaller than this one, few less knives, a lot less money. Notice I emphasize the money part because that's what her objection is. If the money is not the objection, but it's the knives, then I would emphasize the less knives part. But the beautiful thing about our business, it doesn't matter what the objection is at the end of the day. Because every time we drop down, it's less knives and less money, which is the 2 main objections. So that's why this line is super money. Next part here. And I think it might be a better option for you anyways. Why do I say that? Because it's implying that I'm, what do you call it? Well, not really implying because I know I am. It shows that I'm listening to them. It shows that, hey, I think this might be a better option for you anyways. Whether it's too many knives or too much money, it doesn't matter. It's less knives and less money, which is going to be a better fit for most people. And then the last part here is, do you mind if I show it to you just for fun? That's a great money line I learned years and years ago. It's what we call a permission-based question. Guys, they're going to say yes. It's not going to stare you down and go, no, Jackie, you can't show me the next set. That sounds great. It's not going to be like that. They're going to say, yeah, sure, you can show it to me. We're not asking them to buy it. We're not asking them to commit to it or anything like that. Say, hey, do you mind if I show it to you just for fun? And that's the key at the end, is just for fun. Sure, you can show it just for fun. Guys, I had a customer on the first day of push where it was like a friend of my customer, one of my past customers, and they brought him to the appointment. And she was like, yeah, I want to check out Cutco. I've heard good things about it, but I'm just letting you know, Dante, up front, I'm not going to get anything today, but I want to know your prices. So when I'm ready, I can get it later. And I was like, yeah, hey, no problem. Totally cool. I did my thing. By the time that all was said and done, she wanted an ultimate set because she wanted everything. It wasn't going to work in the budget. I dropped down with her to a homemaker, and this is the line that I used. Hey, do you mind if I show it to you just for fun? And you know what her reply was? Sure, Dante, just for fun though, okay? Just for fun. And I was like, cool, that's all we're here, Mrs. Jones. We're just here for fun. Seeing Cutco's fun, buying Cutco's even more fun, let me tell you. But let me show you this just for fun, and you tell me if it works for you. And she got a homemaker. I threw in free shears for her to buy it, and she bought it at the end of the day. So that was from someone that right up front told me, like, not going to get anything. I'm just looking. But you know what? They don't know what they don't know. So that's why I show her her options and then she tells me what she wants. Simple as that. So when you get really good at dropping down, guys, it's a smooth process. It takes practice. You're not going to be great at it today. You're not going to be great at it tomorrow, but you will be better at it after this workshop, though. I can guarantee you that. And you're definitely going to want to practice this with other people before you do this. So let me go ahead and tie this all together because it's not just for the homemaker to the galley, it's for the galley to the starter sets and the starter sets to the 5-piece. Because here's the thing, guys, most of your orders should be somewhere in what I call the middle tier. What is the middle tier? The galleys, starter sets, and 5-piece specials. Homemakers, signatures, and ultimates are kind of like bigger orders for first reps. And then anything below a 5-piece special, I just consider pieces, which are like the smaller specials in your manual. Those typically don't take too much to sell. It's more of them just buying a few random things. So where you want to be really good at is that middle tier, because that's where the difference gets made. Okay. So now that we went from the homemaker to the galley, let me go and run this scenario, but from the galley to the starter set. We're going to kind of tie it all together. Okay. Drop down to the galley, build it up. She says something like, oh man, this definitely is better. I really like this one a lot, but it's still a little bit more I can do right now because of the new roof or whatever her reason was. Okay, cool. Let's hit this really fast. Step number 1, guys. Hey, no problem. Totally cool. Totally get it, Miss Jones. Not a big deal at all. Step number 2. Hey, so just curious, just if you don't mind me asking again, what is it about the galley that you might be unsure of? She's going to tell me it's money again. Okay, cool. By the way, the reason why I'm asking that question still is I want to make sure that's still the only reason. And most likely it will be. Then I go to step number 3. It's like, hey, so just to clarify, Millie, you're saying that you like the galley, it's a better fit for you and all that good stuff. It's just still like budget wise, a little bit more you feel comfortable with because of the roof and everything. Am I hearing that right still? They're gonna go, yeah, that's accurate. It's 10 grand for the roof. It's a whole thing. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, hey, by the way, and just so you know, we actually do have a group of sets that's a little smaller than this one. And again, it's a few less knives for a lot less money. And I think one of these might be better for you anyways, because they're literally called our starter sets, which is always like the definition for first brand new customers. Do you mind if I show them to you real quick just for fun? They're gonna say, sure, you can show me. Now, here's the point, guys. How do you build up the starter sets? How do you promote the starter sets? You use the name. So the great thing about these, Miss Jones, is that they're called starter sets. Basically, all the combinations here have like 4 or 5 knives in them. Some of them have options for the table knives with them too. And then what's great is that if you really like these, and this is just designed to get you started. That's a great line to use. This is just to get you started. And then what most of our customers do, key line to use too, what most of our customers do is once they have this and they're ready for the rest of it, we can just upgrade you, just get you the bigger block and all the knives that you're missing and have you pay the difference for what you don't have. So as long as you buy from me, I will be your Cutco person for the future when you're ready for that. That is super, very important to promote to your customers, the fact that they can upgrade later. Now, you guys don't know how to do an upgrade yet. I will be running a workshop at SC1 for anyone that's over 5K in career sales on literally how to do an upgrade on a demo. So I will teach you guys how to do that at that point. But point being is right now you want to promote that to your customer. We'll help them out down the road. Okay. So here's how you do starter sets. And let me clarify something. I'm going to show you guys how to not do starter sets, and then I'm going to show you how to actually do the starter sets the right way. So let's get the first part here. Here's how you don't do starter sets. All right, Mrs. Jones, our first starter set is called our Essentials Plus 5. It comes with this knife and this knife and this knife and this knife, and it costs this much. Our next one is our studio set that comes with this knife and this knife and this knife and this knife, and it costs this much. Our Space Saver comes with, you guys see where I'm going with this? If you make it too much information, people get confused and they have to think about it. So here's how you do starter sets. You have to make sure to promote it this way. Hey, so just see on Miss Jones, these are all of our starter sets. So the first one here is called our Essentials Plus 5, which has everything you see there. The studio set has all of these. The Space Saver has all these. The All Knife and the Kitchenette come in trays, which has these. And then the Gourmet set has these pieces. Out of these starter sets, which one is the best for you guys? I didn't talk about individual knives. I didn't talk about price because it's irrelevant right now. What they're going to do is this. They're going to take your book or take however you guys have it now, and they're going to look back and forth between all the different sets, give them a few seconds for it, and then they're going to pick one. And then once they pick one, that's the only set that matters. So let's say that they pick a Space Saver set. Okay, cool. So the Space Saver is that's going to come with this and this, this and this, and this. It's also going to come with this block that does this and this. We have the, excuse me, comes with the cutting board and then the sharpener for this and that. So you're going to, that's when you tell them everything individually, specifically that comes with it. And the great thing about this set is that only costs this much, but you can do the 5 pay, which is only this much today. And if I remember correctly, it's like, yeah, it's under $200 a month. For a set of Cutco, under $200 a month, guys, and they get something free, I would say it's a pretty good deal. You guys realize if you just sold 2 Space Saver sets today, you would have $1,000 day? Do you guys realize that? Over $1,000 day, probably, actually. You guys realize if you sold an Essentials and a Studio set tomorrow, you would sell over $1,000, probably around $1,200, $1,300. If you sold just like 3 all knife sets, you would sell over $1,000. So this is why this is important, because you have to be a master at selling galley starter sets and 5P specials because they add up very quickly. So let's go ahead and go to our last part here because I know you guys are gonna have to do a phone jam pretty soon. And Saturday weekends are like one of the best weekends are the best time for phone jams. If I didn't have 9 appointments today, I would be on the phone. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. So here's the thing that I want to make sure to tell you guys. If they say yes to a starter set, high five and a fist bump. Great. Let's say that they say no to a starter set for whatever reason. So we're going to drop to a 5P special. Now, here's the thing though. How do we promote the 5P special over the starter sets now? Well, it's in the name, the 5P special. It's a customized set. Every set up to this point has all been pre-packaged for them. They take it as is. The benefit of buying a 5P special is we take out the block, take out like the table knives and all the extra stuff, and they get to pick the 5 knives that they want, and you get to make it into a set for them. That's the benefit. So when I promote the 5P special, here's how I do it. Hey, so just so you know, Miss Jones, we actually have this next option here called our 5P special. And what's really cool about it is that typically when you're buying a set of knives, you have to buy everything pre-packaged. What's cool about this is that we actually allow you to customize the 5 pieces that you want to start your set. And then what's nice is that you use this over the next 6 months to a year or so. Whenever you're ready for a block and the rest of the set, we can just upgrade you, like I said, and have you pay the difference of what you're missing later. Again, you're minimizing promise orders, minimizing people saying, well, if I'm going to get it, I'm just going to get it all at once. If you get that consistently, this is an easy way to wipe that out. So here's what I would recommend to you. When you get to the 5P special, you're going to show them all the homemaker pieces. They're going to pick 5 items. Now you're going to get one of 2 types of customers though. First customer is going to be an indecisive customer. An indecisive customer is someone that goes, well, I want the paring knife and I want the trimmer, and then they get stuck. Guys, when someone gets stuck, if you have good rapport with them, which at this point you should, you just want to ask the simple question. Hey, Mrs. Jones, do you mind if I make some suggestions? They're going to say yes, and you're going to tell them what they should buy. Because guys, the reality is this. Most people don't know how to use their knives correctly. When you run across people like, I use one paring knife for everything, what that tells me is they were never taught how to use the other knives. That's why they use a paring knife for everything. Guys, at the end of the day, if when you run across customers like, can I just get one, what's the one knife Cutco makes that does everything? You know what my response is to customers that ask that? I said, well, hey, here's the thing, Miss Jones. I can definitely get you a knife that gets probably decently close, like maybe 50% of your things. But the reality is this. Cutco's been around for 75 years. Knives have been around longer than that. And the reason why we don't make one knife to everything, like, don't get me wrong. If we could make one knife that literally did everything, we would charge $1,000 for it. It would be way simpler on the manufacturing process and it'd make our job a lot easier. But the reality is that's not the case. Knives are like tools, which means that they're used for different things. And so I'm not saying you have to have 50,000 knives in your collection, but the reason why people have at least a 5-piece set is because 5 knives will do most of your jobs in your kitchen. And if you ever choose to go beyond that, we have things for that too. So let me show you the 5 knives that most people tend to use, and you just tell me if you like those or not. Can you see how if you're in a customer's shoes, that makes sense? So you have to make sure that if you have a customer that says something along the lines of, can I buy just 1 knife? Can I buy just 2 knives? You want to make sure to let them know. And now you're new, so you can say this to them, what I'm about to tell you now. It's like, hey, absolutely, Miss Jones, we can totally do that. Well, and before I get to all like the individual pieces, part of my job is to make sure that and you can just say they want me to make sure that you know all your options. So let me show you all the smaller sets and the smaller things that we make. And if none of those work for you, just let me know and I'll totally get you like the 1 or 2 pieces that you want. You'll be surprised how many times you say that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sounds good." And by the time you even get to that point, like before you even get to one or two knives, they buy a 5-piece special. Why? Because always remember this: buying 5 knives on 5 payments is easier than selling one chef's knife in one payment. The amount of times that I've had someone go from buying 1 or 2 knives to buying 5 pieces on 5 payments would astound you. And the reason why is because, look, guys, the reality is this: 5 knives up front for $100 a month with something for free is a better deal than one chef's knife in full. It's just how it is. So customers don't know that, which is where you come in to do your job and make sure they know what their options are. Now, anything below, and I realized I never finished up this one part here. The second type of customer you're going to get is going to be a decisive customer. Now, a decisive customer, guys, is really simple. Someone that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They pick the 5 knives they want pretty easily. Whatever the 5 knives they pick, you add those up in your app, tell them what it is, show them the 5 pay, give them their free item, which I believe the 5-piece special this summer is they give you 4 table knives or a pair of shears. Is that right? Is that special number one? Okay, cool. If you don't know that on the back of your hand too, like you got to make sure to know that as well. Guys, they can spend $500 on 5 knives on 5 payments and they get 4 table knives for free. What the heck? That's like $200 of table knives. That's a great deal. Like straight up, that's a great deal. So you need to make sure that you have that conviction whenever you're promoting this to them. So I know we're pretty close to 9 o'clock here right now, and I know that was a ton of information kind of shelling out to you guys, but hopefully you guys got some good nuggets over that 45, 50-minute window somewhere in there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there for right now, and I'm going to let you guys open up for any questions you may have. We probably have time for 2, maybe 3, depending on the length of questions, and then we'll switch gears to the phone jam so you guys can get a lot of demos booked for this next week. So do we have any questions out there from anybody? And always remember, don't be shy if you do.
I got a question.
And let me see here. I'm going to mispronounce this probably. Is it Jonathan?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, look at that. First try, batting 1,000. All right, lay it on me.
All right, so when somebody is very like they're interested in a homemaker and they're like, okay, yeah, but I want like something maybe a little like bigger. So then I show them the signature set, but like I don't have anything to like break that down. Like, how is this so much better than the homemaker? Like, I can look at the pieces, but I can't really like explain the price difference and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I mean. But how would you go about like upselling them from the homemaker to the signature?
Yeah, good question. So when I have someone that likes the idea of having something bigger than a homemaker, I highlight the main bullet points. So 3 things here. Number 1 is that they're going to have the option for the bigger steak knives. And I know you guys are newer, so I don't know if you had a chance to hold a table knife and a steak knife at the same time. It is night and day difference. Almost every single signature and ultimate set I sell, like 99% of them, I kid you not, 99% of them come with steak knives because the steak knives just feel better. They're bigger. They just look more and feel more quality. You can't fit those into a homemaker +8 block. Only the table knives fit. So highlighting the steak knives is humongous. If you don't have a steak knife, you need to get your hands on one so that way you can hand it to your customers so they can feel it. Second thing is the shears. I know with the homemaker we give the shears for free, but that doesn't mean that they're automatically included. So the reason why people like the signature set at a minimum, I've had people buy the 2 bigger sets and they literally quote, "I'm really excited for the scissors." So when someone says like, "Oh, the homemade, it doesn't come with the scissors though," they're right. Can we throw in the scissors? Of course. That's what your manual has for you. And if it comes to that, of course, you're going to do that. But the reality is this: they're like, "Oh, what's the smallest set that has the scissors?" It's the signature set. So that's what you point to them. The smallest set that includes the shears already is going to be the signature set. Let me show you what comes in that doesn't come in the homemaker: shears, the steak knives, and then the 3 extra pieces. By the way, guys, those 3 extra knives, we literally made that set like 10 years ago or something like that. Maybe longer than that at this point, because the ultimate was a little too big. The homemaker was a little too small. So this is like the middle point for most people. And so you get your little Santoku, you get a hearty slicer for your meat, and you get a cheese knife, which is like world renowned as like one of the best knives out there. I mean, that's a lot of good stuff you get for that price difference. So what I would suggest is focus on those 3 things: steak knives, shears, and the extra pieces. And then a lot of people will lean towards doing that. Good question, though. Very valid. All right. We have another question, guys? Or if there's anything I need to clarify again from that message, I can do that as well.
What if they're really dead set on like, I don't want to get any, like, they're like, what if you're like, oh, can I just show you just for fun? And they kind of like, you can feel the vibe kind of go back. What would you go from there?
Yeah. So Jackie, are you asking like, you're do your demo and then they say no to a homemaker for whatever reason? You go through your drop down and like, hey, do you mind if I show you the next one just for fun? And they're just like not feeling it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And they're just like, honestly, Dante, like I'm just really here to help you out. Like, I don't really, like I don't know, like where would you go from there to make sure that it's like feels comfortable and they're still like, open up to, looking at the set.
Yeah, so I got a couple of points. This is a good question because this sometimes will happen. It's not often, but it will happen sometimes, right? So I'm going to give you guys a couple of things here. So make sure to, take this away here from now. First thing is if you're getting this often, always remember, like I said earlier, it's not the customer, it's the rep. So this will happen to everybody, but it should be extremely rare, like extremely rare. Like I'm talking 1 out of 100 maybe. If you're going to get more often than that, then you got to make sure like, am I just doing a bad demo? Is there something I'm doing wrong? So that's first thing to consider. Second thing to consider too is, are you building rapport? Meaning that like when you go to their house or you're doing a demo with them or whatever, are you actually investing the time on the front end to build rapport with them? Now, guys, I know this isn't part of the workshop here today, but one of the things I talk about on my selling sets workshop is about how to build rapport the right way. And what I mean by that is that there's 4 parts to it. So I'll give you a little snippet. Is that when I'm building rapport, I just have to remember this thing: like me, know me, trust me, pay me. So here's what I mean by that. People have to like you before they want to get to know you. Once people get to know you, they feel comfortable with you and they begin to trust you. Once people trust you, they feel comfortable buying from you, which is what pay me means. And so it's a step-by-step process. This is why you want to ask them a lot of questions about themselves to build likability. And once people like you, they want to get to know you. That's why whenever you're in a conversation, I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I've been talking about myself this whole time. Tell me why you're doing Cutco again. Use something about school and a scholarship and whatever. That's why they want to get to know you. Like, what is your purpose? And then the third part is, now that they know you, there's trust that's established. So when you do your demo, like there's a lot more like connection built into it. So by the time you get to the end, when it comes to buying time, people feel comfortable spending their money with you. Because it's not like it's like, oh, it's a $20 gift card for some fundraiser. No, this is real stuff. This is like real stuff that's going to last them 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's going to cost them money, but it's really not that much in comparison to how long they're going to have it for. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, and this is where the directness comes in that you guys are cool with. It's like, hey, sometimes every once in a while there's people that just don't vibe with Cutco for whatever reason. And if that's the case, that's fine. But I know Jackie, you said something along the lines of like, oh, I'm just, doing it to help you out or whatever. Well, here's the thing, guys. Like, vast majority of people, like, they may start that way, but then once they get to know you, like rapport is established, they see Cutco and see the demo, vast majority of people are at least open to buying Cutco. Like, oh, this is actually good stuff. That's why people tell you on the phone, you can come over, but I'm not buying anything. And then when you go there, they usually buy something because they don't know what Cutco is for the most part. And by the time you show it to them, they're like, ah, this is actually good stuff. I think I actually want to get some. And then what they get is, going to be based on different things. So if someone ever told that to me, like I wish I knew this when I was a brand new rep. Our training wasn't as good back then. Like, oh God, training is so much better now. First year reps sell so much Cutco than they used to back when I first started. It would astound you. But the point being is that if a customer told me that when I was a brand new rep, I wish my manager would have taught me this. I would have told him like, yeah, absolutely, Miss Jones. Like, and by the way, I totally appreciate you like help me out so I get credit for this demo and all that stuff. But part of me getting credit for the demo is that they want me to make sure that you know all of your options. And in that way, if there is anything that you see that you like, you just tell me and then I'll get that taken care of for you. So if it's okay with you, let me go through my last couple options here with you, just so I can kind of check that box. And if there's anything that you like, you just let me know and I'll get it shipped out to you. Simple as that. And at the end of the day, guys, like, I mean, I've had a customer, I probably only had this maybe happen half a dozen times over my career, but somewhere like I showed them the first option, like, nah, and I'm just like not feeling like Cutco like at all. Like, I think they're good knives. I don't think they're bad knives. I'm just not feeling it for whatever reason. And that's the end of the demo. And that happens sometimes. It's extremely rare. But one of the best things about our job, guys, is that it teaches us to take rejection. That's one of the best things about sales at the end of the day is that it teaches you rejection. So that way later in life, when like you're, going through the ups and downs of like a job or, whatever it may be in like your personal life, your professional life, or whatever it may be, it teaches you how to, take it on the chin. And it's not the end of the world. It's okay. Life goes on. You move on. So what I would say is don't let it weigh on your shoulders for too long. Just wipe it off and go on to your next demo. Guys, just because one person doesn't want to buy a Cutco doesn't mean the next person is the same way. Always remember that. A one no sale could eat like one no sale that I might have a no sale on my first appointment today. And then the next person could buy $3,000. I never know what's going to happen. And so I got 9 appointments today, like I said. So we'll see how it goes down. But I think that's a very good question, Jackie. And hopefully that answered it.
For sure. Thank you. I got a PDI call in the middle, but it definitely did. Thank you, Dante.
It's all good. You're branching right now. I get it. So okay. So for time purposes, I think we're gonna have to probably pause it right there. I hope you guys got a little good information from that, but here's the point of here is that all that content's good, but it's only valuable if you have your appointment set. Now I know you guys already have appointments lined up probably for today, tomorrow, and like sometime early this week, but more appointments is always key, especially during SC1 push when you're gonna see people give all these great sales reports and stuff here in a little bit. So we're going to give you guys time to do a phone jam to make calls. Now, I know not all of you guys have been in my workshop before, and you guys come from different offices. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page on what it means to make calls. So 3 things that you need. Number 1 is you need your schedule. So you got to have that schedule in front of you over the next, like at minimum 3 days. Now, I would recommend probably not booking demos more than 3 days out. So as after 3 days, the likelihood of like canceling, rescheduling, which is never fun, it tends to go up. If you can book same day demos, which it is a Saturday, so most people are off work today, you can book a same day demo. That's a bonus. That's great. Don't be afraid to offer a same day demo. Second thing is you need to have your phone approach. You got to make sure you don't sound like a dum dum. You got to be consistent, make sure you're saying all the right words consistently. If you are shooting from the hip when you're making calls, like your results will be like this. That's the main thing. Make sure you're offering 1 day and 2 times. You got your manual in front of you and you're smiling while you're on the phone with people. Number 3 thing here is that you always need to have your names list, like your call list ready to go. Whether it's 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, doesn't matter. Always making sure you're sitting down and being like, okay, my goal is to call this many people today. And just for reference for you guys, if you guys are in your first year, your first summer right now, for the most part, if you're trying to make calls for an hour, like, how are you? Like, man, how can I knock out 40 calls in 1 hour? Like, that's what it means to really be going after it. If it's 30 minutes, it's 20 calls. Like, the best people in our business that I see, like, I've had someone that worked with me one-on-one like last year. And I remember this person was just like a monster on the phone, like would make 30 calls in 30 minutes. I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, do you have an auto dialer in your phone? Like, what is going on here? And they had and when people would answer, they would almost always book them because they were like confident in their goals and getting after it and stuff. So I just want to make sure you guys know it's like, hey, if you have like an hour to make calls, making calls is not like making 5 calls. Making calls is like trying to get 30 or 40 in by the time that hour is over. And here's the point I want to make with you guys is that as you embark on this journey throughout the summer and the rest of the year and all this kind of stuff, when you're making calls, guys, with Cutco, it's a skill you have to learn to like really buckle down and like get after it. But if you stay focused in and you make that many calls in a short period of time, you're going to book a good amount of demos. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go perfect every time. You may make 30 phone calls and you may have like 5 people answer for whatever reason and you book 3 of them. Like sometimes that happens. Sometimes you might make 20 phone calls over 30 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever, and you might book 6 demos because people answered and it worked out. But what you can't do is this. You can't have it to where like you make your first 10 calls and it's like, no one answered. No one's home today. And then like flip a table over or whatever. That's not how you do things. All right. You go, okay, cool. Like law of averages is a real thing. I'm just going to keep going through. And here's my recommendation before I bounce, because I know I'm like over time right now. That's right, John. No table flip. People don't recommend that. So main thing I want to make sure to leave you guys with is this. Don't focus on the results, focus on the actions. And so when I say focus on the actions, I mean focus on the amount of calls that you make. Guys, I would be so proud of you if like I was sitting next to you and you made like 30 calls in an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it takes. And you know what? If you didn't book that many demos that one time, that's okay. Commit to the actions. That's the best thing that our business teaches. And sometimes it'll go great. Sometimes it won't go great. But that's part of the job where it teaches you resilience and discipline. And that's what I love about Cutco. And that's why so many people that make it on the back end of our business do great things. So I'll go ahead and get off my little platform here for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and switch gears so you guys can make calls because I'm supposed to get you guys on the phone at 9. So that's my fault. So I apologize, Kathy and Jackie and everyone else on this. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys there. You guys do your thing. I'm going to do my appointments for today. I'll see you guys next week for Tuesday's SC1. If you're not signed up already, make sure to get signed up for it. Make sure to sell a lot over the next like 9-10 days or so that we have left in the push. And I'll see you guys then. I'll have my booth set up for the events program, and I'll get to meet every single one of you guys during that time. So I wish you guys the best of luck, and then I hope you guys learned a lot, but go ahead and make calls and make